Sounds good.
Hello, everybody. Happy May 3rd, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talent in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have the head coach of the NFA football program. His name, Jason Bakoulis. Coach Bakoulis, thanks so much for being able to come on today.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on here and a great opportunity for us to talk some great football in the state of Connecticut.
Now, before we start talking about the NFA program and, yourself and how you got there, talk to me about your coaching career and kind of what led you into becoming a football coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what led me into becoming a coach, it's the people along the way. My first coach was my dad, and, to have him in my corner, always being there, not just with football, but obviously with life. And then, he's the one who kind of got me introduced to it. I wanted to play the game of football because he did. I remember just growing up and, my mom, my dad talking about, back when my dad played football, whether it was youth football in Norwich or at NFA. So it was always kind of like a little competition for me to play and to be a great football player. And then when I got to high school, I had head coach Steve Robichaud and our defense coordinator Jamal Davis, who I ended up coaching with. Those guys were phenomenal coaches and did a lot more for us than just coaching the game of football. And then I was fortunate to be able to go to school and play football at Springfield College. And I mean, that's a coaching cradle of the entire U.S. There's so many guys that come out of there. There's so many great GAs that I had in my 4 years there that were learning to become coaches. And now they're all over the place. There's guys that are Division I, Division II, Division III, professional level. But that's where they started. And so it was their roots. And then obviously the coach we had there, our head coach coached along, and now the head coach who's there, Coach Sarasula, who's on the offensive side. Across from me, I played defense, and my defensive coordinator, Coach Hollick. I mean, just a big personality, super energy, super passionate, intelligent. So when I take all those pieces, that drove me into wanting to continue the game of football. Always had the love for it. And so when you add it all together, it was like that's what I knew. That's what I had to do. I don't know what a fall feels like since I was probably 6 years old where I didn't have football. So, I could not tell you what it feels like to not be playing or coaching. So it's just part of who I am, and I'm fortunate that my wife, she's a huge supporter of it. And so, I get to keep doing it every year and having fun with it. But, that's what got me into coaching for sure.
Now, was NFA your first program as far as you went to, or did you coach somewhere else, either as an offensive, defensive, head coach, and so forth?
So my first year, was at NFA. So I was actually student teaching back home, and I got a chance to work with the guys in the weight room. So that was the spring of 2008, going into my college graduation. And so I was student teaching back home as a PE teacher, working with Bonnie Ambruzzo, whose husband, Mark Ambruzzo, was the head coach at the time at NFA. So I got in the weight room with the guys and, just started to really just love being around, high school kids, helping them out and seeing them get challenged every day. So I was on his staff, and then Coach Davis took over the helm that spring. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, Coach, can I, coach with you? He said, absolutely. So my first year was at NFA. I was a linebackers coach. There's definitely some great memories of learning along the way. I remember going in there being like, this is college, and I'm going to coach you guys like you're college players. And I learned really quickly that you got to adjust your coaching style, et cetera. But I did actually put pads on for a couple of practices during that time. And there were some things that happened on the field that I'll never do that again because, too many lawsuits and stuff now. But it was fun. It was fun. The kids, I got to get payback on the kids a little bit that were, talking some smack.
Coach, I could, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Coach, you look like you're pretty yoked up. So it looked like you may have hurt some, I don't want to say hurt some kids, but it looked like you may have done some things where the kids will never, ever try to, PO you ever again, ever.
Yeah, no, it was fun. There was a couple other coaches that suited up and we definitely had some fun with it. But yeah, so, I'm a PE teacher. And at the time I was actually that first year that I coached in 2008, I was teaching at Lyme Consolidated Elementary School, but it was a 1-year position. The teacher was out on maternity leave. So I needed a job. And at the time there was nothing really happening. And then that summer in August, New London High School had a opening at the high school. So my father-in-law, he worked there, and so he was able to get me a interview. And at the time, Jeff Larson,
Mhm.
he actually was the incoming new head coach. So he took over after Cochran had left. So he was, that was his first season. And so I got a chance to sit down with him, and I got the health job, and I got the coaching position. So I was coaching defense, or actually that first year was outside linebackers, which
Mhm.
then eventually became defensive line. And he actually named me special teams coordinator that first year with him. And that was a great opportunity to really learn. Coaching special teams is if you're a young coach, that's a great opportunity. Like, I know the
Mhm.
players a lot of times in high school, like, I don't want to play special teams, I'm too good for it. But the energy that it takes to coach that, it's going to make you a better coach overall. So I coached there for 3 years at the rival, because I played at NFA, and my entire family went to NFA. So Thanksgiving, depending on which way it went, it could be me sitting inside, getting criticized a little bit for losing. Or if we won, then it might be more of like, hey, your food's outside waiting for you type thing. So, but it
On
was all love.
Thanksgiving. Oh, that's terrible.
But
Gee.
yeah, so I coached in London for 3 years, taught
Mhm.
there, and the opportunity to get the PE opening opened up at NFA, and it
Mhm.
was a no-brainer. I put in, and I was fortunate enough to get that job. And Coach Davis,
Mhm.
obviously allowed me the opportunity to coach with him again, and so I've been there ever since, coaching defensive line at NFA. Was a defense coordinator, and then got the great opportunity to be the head coach.
It seems like just starting out at Springfield and then going through the progressions as any coach does, because every head coach, just like if you think about a professional athlete, there's no one straight line of how to do it. There's always going to be different avenues. And it sounds like for you, you were around a lot of great talent as far as head coaches. And then it also helps too that you went to positions like Springfield, very storied for both coaches, players, and the program. New London, same thing, coaches, players, program. And now NFA, same thing. It seems to me that you kind of put yourself in an opportunity to really help yourself grow to get to the point that you are now.
Yeah, it was definitely a blessing for me to have those opportunities. At the time, it one of the hardest things to do was to actually train those guys. Spend the weight room time in
Mm-hmm.
2009 with the guys from NFA, and be in that weight room with them. And then all of a sudden, literally, like, it was like 2 weeks before camp started in August.
Mm-hmm.
I got the job for New London, and I had to walk in that locker room and say, "Hey guys, I'm leaving." I remember there was kids that cried, and for me, that really hit home hard, because that's where I went to school. These guys were playing youth when I was at NFA playing, and it was tough. But I learned so much, as you said, in those journeys.
Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest mentors as a coach is Tommy Major. He's a guy that if you're coaching against him, you probably don't like him, because he's going to be loud, and he's going to be confident. But I learned so much about motivating. The game of football,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot to be said about X's and O's, but it's bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. And he could get any kid to run
Mm-hmm.
through a wall. Those kids would still run through a wall for him, even if it's 10, 20, 30 years later. And so I learned a lot from him, and obviously all the other guys that I was fortunate to be on the staff with. But Tommy Major told me one of the best pieces of advice is when I first got hired. He said, "Hey," he said, just listen, and I try to listen to everybody that I coach with, and
Mm-hmm.
just try to pull stuff. Even the guys on my staff now, I got guys on my staff that could easily be head coaches at multiple locations, and I bounce stuff off them all the time. We're texting, calling, when we are face to face in staff meetings.
Mm-hmm.
um, Learn, just try to learn. That's what Springfield taught us. Just learn from each other type thing.
And taking that mentality and that approach, which I love to be able to hear that, how you just, some coaches have a tendency to kind of, it's their way or the highway, but for you to be able to kind of go to your other coaches, defensive, offensive coordinator, special teams, so on and so forth, to be able to bounce ideas off is really good, because that's how a program and a team grows. And when you go through some difficult times, like you did this past season, you lost 3 of your first 6 games, or 3 games out of the 6, but then you finished the season winning 4 of your last 5. So even though NFA did not start out strong, they finished better than how they started.
Yeah, well, in that too is you lose your starting quarterback after he sets the school record
Mm-hmm.
for passing yards in a game, and then you go on and lose your backup quarterback, and you go with you have to go to a sophomore
Mm-hmm.
who literally the year before was playing freshman football. Yeah, the the game of football, from when you play it to now when
Mm-hmm.
you coach it, it teaches you so many things about life. And for myself, the coaches and the players, we always look at the fact that you're going to get knocked down. Things aren't going to go the way you want to go. Adversity is going to hit. What are you going to do about it? You can sit and pout all you want, but that's not going to do anything. That's a guarantee, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a guarantee that if you just sit and cry about it and complain about it, nothing, it will happen. Maybe someone will bring you a box of tissues, and someone will, tap you on your shoulder. But the reality is you got to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very fortunate because the guys on my staff, the coaches on my staff, that's who they are. Like, I didn't have to tell them this is how you have to act. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
come in every day with that mentality. Like, they're not going to come to me and say, Coach, this isn't fair. Because that would be the worst thing in the world if the coaches are complaining, like, we lose starting quarterbacks, we lose this,
Mm-hmm.
it's not fair, coach. We've had a tough schedule the past 3 years, playing a lot of out of conference games, and never once are the guys on the staff, complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're excited about it, and when they're coming every single week with energy, and when they hit the practice field, and all you hear is these guys, the intensity of them coaching the players. They don't care if you're a first year player or you're an all conference player. They
Mm-hmm.
don't care. They're going to coach you hard, and the kids don't have a chance to sulk about it or be upset by it. And if they do, we're going to let them know that that's not how we are here. So it's part of the game, and it teaches you valuable lessons in life. And for us, we learned a lot this past year, and we're going to become better because of it.
I'm glad you mentioned about the quarterback, the sophomore that came in, Jaden DeSillis. The numbers are impressive: 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, over 1,400 yards. You know, as a quarterback that young, typically when I see a sophomore, I'm looking for more interceptions and touchdowns. Now with DeSillis, man, he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he came on really strong. Early on in the summertime, and then in our passing leagues and different things. You
Mm-hmm.
could tell he was still developing, still learning the offense. We go into every season. The reporters, here like the day and stuff. They always ask me, who's your starting quarterback? And I'm like, I won't know until week one, because we're not going to label a kid as our starter until we know. That kid's got to put in the time. We had 3 quarterbacks for the
Mm-hmm.
starting position. And, with Jaden, he was there. But at the same time, you could tell he was a young player. And he never gave up. And he never sat back in the corner. At practice, a lot of times young quarterbacks, they'll kind of drift further and further back. And a lot of that credit goes to our offensive coordinator, Steve Burris, our
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks coach, Eric Washburn. They didn't allow him to do that. You look over there, and Eric Washburn is standing with them and asking them questions as the starters are doing their stuff. You
Really?
know, and then he's putting them out there. Coach Burris, he runs a system where guys are getting reps in practice. And
Mm-hmm.
so he got a lot of reps. In practice, he had opportunities. He was our quarterback that were going for scout team versus our starting defense.
Mm-hmm.
So certain situations in practice, he had to go out there and perform against our starting defense. So, fortunately for him, he had a lot of opportunities. And then, like I said, I mean, when he went in versus West,
Now, shame on me for not looking at the depth and the quarterbacks that you had ahead of him at the time. Now, did those quarterbacks, were they seniors?
yeah,
Okay,
that
so
was
DeSillis, I'm not saying that he's going to be a starter, but the experience that he was able to get this past season, you know, I don't want to say that, everything happens for a reason, and I would never wish on an injury to any player by any means. But with those 2 kids getting hurt, it opened up an opportunity for DeSillis to show, kind of like when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, both with the Patriots and the Cowboys. And look what happened. You had Tony Romo, and you had a guy by the name of Tom Brady. He's pretty good if anybody wants to know. But it really sounds like maybe at the right time it happened for him, because now he has the experience. You know what he can and can't do. He knows as a player that he needs to improve on some things. And who knows, the next 2 years could really help the program and himself.
Yeah, no, we that was obviously, you never want to see
No.
seniors get hurt, and the fact that both of them, it was season-ending injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And those two guys were Austin Richards and Jacob Hosko. I mean, great kids, and that was tough. But like you said, when you look at the positives within the negatives, the fact that he got that playing experience, he was our quarterback in a playoff game. He actually ended up getting hurt. He's good now. He's healthy now, but he got hurt versus Newtown in that playoff game. So we ended up finishing our season on a fourth-string quarterback for basically an entire half and a few snaps in the first half of the Newtown game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the opportunity was there, and we're excited coming to this year because we have, obviously Jaden returning, and then we have a couple other quarterbacks, Max Davison and Sebastian Hebert. And then we got a young guy from the freshman level, Colby, that's coming up. And, we're excited, about some of those guys and what they're able to do for us.
Sounds like there's a lot of, NFAs just producing quarterbacks, just churning them out left and right. I broadcasted the NVL, so I see, all the NVL teams in Ogden Valley League. And some teams have a hard time getting one quarterback out. So the fact that you have like 4 or 5, it's pretty impressive that you have that much depth, to be able to help just in case if there is an injury, or in the case of last year, 2 season-ending injuries.
Yeah. No, yeah. We're fortunate. We didn't have that the year before. We actually had a situation where our quarterback was injured, and our starting wide receiver had to come in and play quarterback for the first series. We actually had a practice. It was crazy. We didn't know what was going to happen. Jaden was a freshman at the time, and he was kind of like the guy that would potentially, but we knew he was not ready at that. We were never going to do that to him. And then our JV quarterback was hurt. So our starting quarterback got hurt, and then a receiver actually came in. It was versus Fitch last year. He ended up throwing a touchdown, a jump ball to Noah Mokaton, who went up and caught it. But yeah, no, we were very fortunate. We look back on it, and very, very fortunate, especially because we obviously throw the ball so much. I mean, we're an air raid team, and we're throwing that ball all over the field, and you need a quarterback to do that.
But you can't forget about the running backs. Xavier Fonville, he's a player I want to hit on next, because he's one of the players that's returning as far as having the most yards and touchdowns for the returning running backs. And this is a young man who looks like a spark plug. As soon as you give him the rock, it's cut, go every single time with him.
Yeah, no, we're excited about Fonville. He really developed last year. Same thing, got an opportunity to play maybe earlier than what was anticipated, but he went out there and he did his thing, and you could definitely see the progression he was making, every single week. And again, like I've said before, and I can't stress it enough, I'm fortunate with the coaching staff that I have, because that's what they do. I mean, they demand. And guys, just because you're a starter week 1 doesn't mean you're guaranteed. And so they treat you every single week like this is, preseason, and so you got to keep working, got to keep getting better. And so Fonville just kept taking that hard coaching and kept getting better. So we're excited about him, and like you said, I think that's a good description of him, spark plug. The first time he touched the ball, I was like, all right, there we go. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Hit it right up in there. He's not trying to be fancy. He wasn't timid, and so those are all important things. So, we're excited about him and what he can do this year for us.
It seems like, Coach, that you have a keen eye as far as if you see it once or just see something the first time, you're like, okay, just like with Jaden, first pass, okay. Fonville touches the ball once. You see him, a little bit of his actions. Okay. We might have something here. Can you tell me of a player that maybe you saw last year that kind of really was like same response where you were like, okay, that was pretty good. I think he'll be good.
Yeah, we got a kid that he's gonna be playing outside linebacker for us this year, Nick Kaneko. And same type of thing. So he was a backup for most of the year.
Mhm.
So I mean, we call him the tackling machine, Nate Cody, and he ended up being an All-State linebacker. And when they did the All-State recognition, yeah, this kid
Mhm.
he was a safety for us his junior year, and he was tackling everybody on the field during our hall scrimmage. And I said to our D coordinator Kevin Whitaker, I'm like, hey coach, we got to get him off the field. I mean, this guy he's got to come play linebacker. So his junior year, he ended up playing linebacker. He'll probably kill me if he sees this, but he's probably like 5'7", 5'8", 150, 155. He was a double L all-state linebacker. It just shows his toughness, his ability to make plays.
Mhm.
Um, he had over 100 tackles this season and 90 the year before. So he's obviously graduated. He's going to go play at Endicott. But, Nick Kaneko is that next guy. And he actually got an opportunity later in the season. There were
Mhm.
certain packages that we used, and a couple of times we had to pull some guys off the field, whether it be injury, whatever. And when he would get on there, you could see the spark. He had his best game
Mhm.
against our rivals, New London. So he showed that spark there, and we're excited about his commitment to this offseason. I know he's at home. He's got a hill in his yard, and he sent me videos of him sprinting up it, and
Mhm.
he's got weights, and he's constantly telling me about the work he's putting in. So we're excited about his senior year coming up.
That's great to hear, a player that's trying to put in the work, during this whole entire quarantine. It really sounds like, just from the articles I read and the video I've been able to watch of the players, and kind of like how they react, how you react, you've really done a fine job with the program, and they respond. And again, you mentioned about the coaches. I haven't even heard you mention I as much. It's been more about the coaches and how they've been able to really kind of help build what is a sustainable winning program. And, kudos to you and the coaching staff.
Oh, thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. One more question for you, because we're just about out of time. What do you envision? Because again, looking at it from a glass half full, I want there to be football. I think everybody wants there to be sports
Yeah.
again. High school football, I think if that can be the starting off point for sports, just like the NFL, I think everybody would buy that 100%. They would put all their money into that stock. So the question I have for you is, what kind of team should people look for as far as the NFA team in 2021 or 2020, I should say?
For us, we're obviously going to be young. We graduate 28 seniors,
Wow.
and we have a lot of young guys who
Mhm.
are going to be expected to step up. But as always, our expectation, our team motto is raise the bar, and so it doesn't matter if you didn't play varsity last year or not. I mean, you got to step up. You got to grab the torch. As I mentioned, Nick Kaneko, he's going to be stepping up and replacing a guy that had 100 tackles for us. And
Mhm.
we don't necessarily expect him to have that same stat line, but we expect him to bring that mentality that guy before him had, that toughness, that energy,
Mhm.
which are a part of our core values. And then we have guys that are veterans. I mean, Joe Click is a returning. He started as a freshman. He's going to be a senior, and those guys, we're going to be holding them accountable to being leaders. Leadership is a huge part of our program, and we expect those guys to demand from each other. As coaches, we could demand all we want, but at the end of the day, it's the players demanding from each other. That's how we get better. So for us, looking at this season, the expectation is that we bring energy every day.
Mhm.
We're tough. We don't back down from anything, and tough mentally as well. We don't fold under pressure.
Mhm.
The what ifs, the I wish I did this. Those type of things, they can't happen. We're going to be mentally and physically tough. We're going to compete every day in practice and bring that into the game. It's that's got to be a huge part of our program. We got to stay focused, because who knows what guidelines and rules and all the other things that could come into play.
Mhm.
We got to keep our focus on what we're trying to accomplish. We talk about game day as relentless effort. And when that snap occurs, you're giving everything you got until you hear the whistle, and then we repeat that. So it's that one rep of relentless effort, and we repeat. And the biggest and most important thing is that when we play and people have a chance to see us play, from coaches all the way down to an equipment manager, that we're one family out there, that we're together. It doesn't matter what is being said or happening in the outside world, that we're
Mhm.
family. And as long as we could do all those things and constantly bring that every single day, then we'll have success. And it's not necessarily maybe what the newspaper says, but we'll have success in being successful people. And that's all I can ask for.
Coach, I really do admire, what you've done with the program and kind of the journey that has brought you to NFA, and it's a pleasure to be able to have you come on the show. We've just about run out of time, but, thanks again for being able to come on and be able to share about the program, some players, and what to look forward to in 2020. You're always welcome to come back on anytime.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it.
That'll wrap things up here on the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.